Good afternoon and welcome to Coffee Time by Yassmine O, the new version of Cuéntamelo con un café. Our guest of today is an actor, producer, writer, born and raised in Dusseldorf, Germany, by parents of Moroccan descent. He moved to New York City in 2003 to undergo training in a 2-year master's class in a method acting conservatory. Upon completing his training, he was immediately cast as the lead in the film The Man Who Killed Castro, which won critical acclaim at numerous film festivals internationally in 2009. After playing the lead role in Last Chance, a film screened on Fox as part of Steven Spielberg's production On the Lot, he continued to garner roles in films, network series, and on off-Broadway stages before moving to Los Angeles in 2008. After moving to LA, he immediately gained supporting roles on ABC Family's Lincoln Heights alongside Vanessa Williams. He then began filming To Rest in Peace, which became a Cannes favorite and has won awards at various film festivals. While playing Aiden in Ma Cité, Mon Histoire, sponsored by Vanity Fair and Banana Republic, he grabbed the attention of Emmy Award-nominated DP Cira Felina Bolla, who then cast him as the lead of the film Feroz, where his role as a sociopath received critical acclaim. He just finished filming Noon, a Kasra Farah. Okay, let me see if I can pronounce this well. Kasra Farahani, art director of Avatar, Thor, and Benjamin Button, directed sci-fi drama in which he plays Peter, one of the last religious people in a bear with me a second, post-apocalyptic world where religion is forbidden. His interests and talents also extend into the worlds of dance and music. As a professional salsa dancer, he performed with Jennifer Lopez for Fashion Rocks at Radio City Music Hall and guest starred as the international salsa master alongside Tim Gunn on his Bravo Network show, Tim Gunn's Guide to Style. Sponsored by fashion house Yves Saint Laurent, L'Art Moyen, a film written and produced by our guest of today, showcases his singing and dancing talents. His most recent musical endeavors include Serenata, Elephant, and Home, represent the culmination of his musical styling. He was recently cast in the upcoming feature, The Final Judgment, shot in Egypt and Lebanon. His very last project was for Netflix, Absolute Dominion, which he will tell us about later. One of his personal quotes, which I really like, is, "I shouldn't get confused by all I can do. I need to focus on what I want to do." Younes ZAHDI, salam, welcome.
Alaikum salam. Thank you.
Well, good morning to you, because here in Spain it's afternoon. So good morning
Yes.
to you.
Good evening to you.
Thank you. And a pleasure having you on to Coffee Time by Yassmine O. Well,
Thank you
let's
for having
start
me.
with questions. Tell us, Younes, how did it all start?
Oh, I was a little Moroccan boy in Germany. So, quickly I, was already connecting with arts and music and things that were different because I felt different. And then directly it started in eighth grade. And a English teacher, actually, we were doing Romeo and Juliet.
Hmm.
And, we all kids, we were all just playing. But there was something different for me. And I remember this moment, came up to me and put his hand on my shoulder and was like, "You need to, think about doing something with this." And that stuck with me. And then, every play I could do, I would do it. And then not till later, and I never talked about it to anybody because in Germany, you don't grow up in, like here in the US, performing arts, high schools and things like that aren't that supported. It's all about school and then your professional training and then you do your good solid job. So I just secretly found an organization with which I came to New York, which was a Peace Corps type of organization, and it
Mm-hmm.
all worked out serendipitously. I came to New York. My acting school was around the corner, dance school around the corner, and it was very hard. I had to work 100-hour weeks, but that's how it all happened.
Wow, that's great. Who inspired you to be an actor?
That wasn't necessarily one person, but just to see how the art form of acting and filmmaking and storytelling, you're just able to shed light on things that news, for example, can't do. So that was always something I really uh, was attracted to. Even the darkness and lightness. You can laugh more than you ever laughed sitting there watching a movie, or you cry and basically just process all your pain watching a movie through the story that you would never have access to in your life otherwise. Seeing people, seeing whether it's historic events when they get it right, or fictional things, that it's just so inspiring. So for me, having lived the life I lived, it was very unconventional, let's say, in Germany, and between Germany and Morocco. I just, for me, it was a nice catharsis to act, to create, to perform.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was it.
Have you always had your family support? What did your family say when you once said, "Okay, I'm moving to the States because I'm going to become an actor"?
You know, um, I didn't even tell everybody. My sister, who's closest in age to me, she knew, and she was always, very supportive.
Mhm.
And my mom was busy, trying to make ends meet for us kids because she was a single mom, and then, we were immigrants, first generation in Germany, so we didn't have relatives. It was just us. So she ended up leaving Germany because some stuff had gone down, and then she went to
Mhm.
Morocco, and started a business. So when I left Germany to go to New York, she was in Morocco. So I called her
Okay.
on the phone and I told her about, doing this 1 year program. I'll be back. But literally the first week I was in New York, I was already interviewing for acting school. So I knew what I wanted to do, but I didn't want to speak on it until it solidified. And
Yeah.
then once it did, I told her, and she was very supportive, but there was always a little bit of that, maybe it's just a phase. Maybe I can encourage them to have a plan B. And I never believed in things like that. I always wanted to just commit fully. Otherwise, I would just be 1 foot in, 1 foot out.
Mhm.
So now they're extremely supportive. And, my mom is my biggest fan and best friend. But, it took a minute.
I can imagine your mom in Morocco saying, "Hedda Wildi, Hedda Wildi, Hedda Wildi." Imagine that.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
totally,
Yes.
totally.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, have you seen Adam, the film?
Uh, the with Mo Amer, the recent, or
Um,
which probably not.
oh, Mariam, the director. Oh my God, she would kill me if I can't remember her name now. And her husband, they are both in LA. They live in the States, I think, or in France, in Paris.
Okay.
Well, I'll send you the link. It's I think it's on Amazon Prime now, and it's a really good film. You should see it.
Okay.
It's very good. Okay, so oh, by the way, can you see me and hear me well?
Yes.
Perfect, thank you. I had internet connection problems with
Okay.
my previous guest, and I really felt very awful about it.
Yeah.
Um,
All
you have,
smooth right now.
yeah, thank you. Well, if something goes wrong, just let me know because I see
Well,
myself well, so I don't know. Um, okay, you have worked as an actor in both TV and film.
mhm.
Which one do you prefer and why?
Okay. So it's a good question because the TV medium is changing here because now everything with Netflix and the streamers,
Hmm.
the 10 episode format is pretty much shot mostly like a film. For example, I did a show called Counterpart for the
Hmm.
Stars Network. We actually shot mostly in LA and a little bit also in Berlin, locate on location. And that was shot like a film. So the 10 episodes, we shot it out of order. We shot it like a film schedule. So,
Hmm.
and same with film, obviously. And then regular here, episodic TV, often, one episode at a time with um, it's standalone stories. So it's like each
Yeah.
episode has its own thing. So I do prefer the film or the streaming medium. It just feels more the whole story from beginning to end. You tell it to tell it, and you lose yourself in it. You immerse yourself in it, um, and you're done in a few months with that one project because you prepare for a few months, you shoot for a few months, and then you still have to unprepare and get back to who you are, depending
Hmm.
on how intense the role is, and that takes some time. And if you do regular episodic, which is of course wonderful as well, but you commit 9 months and long
Yeah.
days, and there can be some redundancy and things like that. But yeah, I prefer a film,
Hmm.
um, for sure.
Yeah. Well, that's how um, House of Dragons and
Yeah,
the Power of the Rings have been shot, and
right.
also the Chosen is shot that way too.
Yeah,
So I think it's great, and I think even yeah, Handmaid's Tale also is shot that way. So I think it's 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 good in two ways. One, that it's shot in a cinematic way, which
right.
is great because it gives it more power,
Yeah,
more powerful, and in the final uh, the final bit of the project, and then addition wise, and then
right.
for actors and filmmakers and screenwriters, etc. I mean, cast and crew, it's great because, like you said, you're there for about 2 months or 3 months working, and then it's done and dusted, and you can go on. If it was done in TV series, if it was done the regular way, well, you could be there for 9 months and you couldn't take any other jobs because you're there 9 months or a year with the
Yeah,
same job. And it's so I think it's quite cool that they changed the way of filming series. I think it's
right.
very interesting. Mhm. And plus it gives it an added value, the way doing it cinematically, it gives it more of an added value to the
Yeah,
project.
and artistically, I like really
Yeah.
intense roles and stories. So if I, put myself in there fully, after a few months, like it's good to have that relief in between. You know.
Yeah. Well, I'm a kind of person that well, I'm a mother, I'm a grandmother, I'm this and that, and so I'm everything. So since I'm everything,
Yeah.
and hooray, I'm a woman, and that's we can do a lot of things, as they say.
Yes, you can.
It's not always true, but we can do a lot of things. But yeah, I do love strong characters and strong roles, uh, but for me it's easy, and we'll get to that question a little bit later because I
Okay.
want you to explain how you get out of these characters.
Oh
What
yeah.
do you like most of working in film, TV, or theater?
All right. So because I studied my training was theater. So at that
Mhm.
time, I really enjoyed and loved the thrill, and also it's like symbiosis. Like you become family with the
Mhm.
crew, and you rehearse together, and then you put on this show, and you have this intimate connection against the audience who you don't see because the light is on you. So that was all really wonderful. But having done film and TV for so long, now when and if I step back into theater work, it's so different. Even the way I would use my voice, the
Mhm.
way I would portray a certain performance, because
Mhm.
I really, really became very comfortable with cinematic
Yeah.
um, format because it's
Mhm.
tight. It's, really all internal work. It's all in the eyes. It's all you don't have to worry about the person on the last row understanding what it is that you're trying to say.
Mhm.
So yeah, definitely film. I prefer and I'm most comfortable with, and then also the beauty of seeing the final product and having access to the final product
Mhm.
um, for life.
Yeah, true. Out of the projects in which you have worked in to today, which
Mhm.
is your favorite project and why?
For the longest time, it was a film I had done a long time ago called "The Man Who Killed Castro,"
Mhm.
and it was a Cuban story we shot in Savannah, Georgia. But as of now, it is definitely The Final Judgment. It's the feature film I shot in the last fall in Egypt and Lebanon. It's
Mm-hmm.
by Marwan Muqbel. He's an Egyptian American, Egyptian born, and then he lived here a long time. Director, and it's a phenomenal story. I cannot wait for the world to see, and what we've been able to create and do um, with it. And now watching it back when I'm doing sound post production ADR,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just so impressed with everyone's performances, and we just all exceeded our expectations. And it's just really a powerful story that I think the world will embrace. I see entertainment really shifting and changing and opening up
Mm-hmm.
boundaries and borders, and it's a beautiful time today being part of the Hollywood industry versus even 10 years ago, versus even 3 years ago, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of things are changing, so I love to be part of it now and to continue to push the boundaries and to continue to shed light to our people, you know, our stories, and there's so much beauty and so much power in that, rather than repeating the same thing, or whitewashing
Yeah.
things that weren't even white to begin with. So it's a really powerful story. It's a forbidden love story and talks about um, a mother cursing her own son, and I won't give away too
Mm-hmm.
much, or the director will chop my head off.
Yeah.
And can't wait for everybody to see it.
When is it going to
Yeah.
be released and where?
So that film, being the style that it is, it's going to go the route of premiering at a hopefully renowned film festival, and
Mm-hmm.
after which distribution deals will be made. So likely festival either, or not either, definitely early next year. So
Mm-hmm.
we don't know which one, because they all have exclusivity rights. So we're gunning for the big names, and
Mm-hmm.
then after the festival, likely it'll be out in theaters, and the US and Europe mainly because of the nature of the story.
Okay.
And then it will come out on streamers, hopefully globally.
Okay. That's great.
Yeah.
Great news. Wait to see it.
I can't
Um,
wait.
has there ever been any project that you've done that you regretted doing, or that it was not as satisfactory for you as you expected it?
You know, I generally I don't believe in regret. I think even any um, experience that you didn't like, or you would feel that there's a lesson to. Well, my brain, the way it wires things, is always as a lesson. What this will take me to something I didn't even know I needed to know.
Mm-hmm.
But there has been some projects when I first moved to LA, surprisingly, because when I was in New York, everything I was involved in was at least quality, I was, maybe I got lucky, but when I first came to LA, there were there's a lot of filmmakers, a lot of film productions. And, there were some where then when I would watch them back, or when I'd be on set, I was just not at all happy with people's work ethic, or, certain things that I was observing. Even before pre 2020, before the Me Too movement, things you would see directors, the way they would talk to certain people, things like that. And then watching the project back later, and it's not the quality you hoped
You
for,
expected.
expected. Yeah. So it's like, okay, now after that, I was able to navigate and select um, better. And, I've been lucky with most of which I was part of, having had quality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's just doing a little bit of homework before you
Yeah.
say your project and say, "Can you please send me your latest jobs so I
All
can?"
right.
And then that's
Yeah.
when you say, "Okay,
Right.
okay," because, for instance, mm, I think that you can change during a shooting. You can change if you obviously you have to have savoir faire to be able to do it in a
Yeah.
very respectful way. You can change the course of the shooting with the
Yes.
director, but if the crew is not a qualified crew, you can't do
Yes.
anything about that.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
that needs to be top, because otherwise, I mean, you can have the best director, directing the film, but if the rest of the crew is not very picky on perfectionism, on how
Yeah.
to make it well, it's not, you're not gonna save the project. There's no way. It's just like if there's this person who for me is very, very important as a crew member, which is the focus
Yeah.
person. If the focus is not well done, you have to start all over again because you cannot save the project. There's no way. No way.
Absolutely.
Sound, you can make it lower, you can make it higher, you can
Yeah.
make a flash with a little bit of music in the
Right.
background. But focus, if it's not focused, I mean, it happened to me with my previous last week's guest.
Yeah.
It's horrible. My focus is just
Oh, right. Right.
it's so you can hear me well, but you can't see me. So you
Yeah.
can't sell that. You can't sell it. And that
Right.
cannot, you can't fix it. There's no way you can
Right.
fix it. You have to do it again. So that is
Yeah.
very, many people don't even consider that person is
Mm-mm.
so important. I mean, for me, I always have, and I'll quit talking because it's your time. But
Right.
for me, the focus
No,
person,
you're
be it
good.
a woman or a man, the focus for me, I compare the focus guy or girl to being the doctor, the how you call it, anesthesia doctor. If that, which is a doctor, most people think
Right.
they are nurses. No, they are doctors.
Right.
If
Right.
they go over the dose, you can have the best surgeon in the world. That surgeon will not make you get off that table
Exactly.
if the other doctor doesn't do his job well. So this is the same thing. And people don't
Absolutely.
tend to thank the focus guy. The focus guy is one of the key
Yes.
persons in the filming industry.
Yeah.
But well,
That's
no,
so true.
yeah. I do have a focus guy who I hope soon we'll have him as a guest, and he will tell us all about his job and how difficult it is. Now,
Yeah.
according to you, what are the three? I know there are many, but what are the three qualities that every actor should have?
Well, I believe that actors, and I always am the one on set fighting for actors, and I'm
Mhm,
a really actor's actor. And I think that empathy is the most important, as a person. If you as a person have empathy, lots of empathy, and I think kids have it, and as we grow up, we are just conditioned to reduce it. So we, function in society, I guess. But if we have and maintain that empathy, it's just the biggest quality because then you can just feel what others feel and you can understand it even if you haven't experienced it. Even if you don't rationally understand it, you emotionally are still able to. Discipline, of course, it is art, but it's a business. And at the end of the day, you have to be very disciplined for yourself because no one will do things for you. And once you're cast, even before you're cast, trying to get the job. And then once you have the job, the responsibility to deliver is
mhm,
immense at the end of the day, no matter what the director and crew, as important as they are, and we need them to look
mhm.
good, but it's up to us to deliver, so everyone is there, including the focus puller who looks out for you to make sure everything is good. But it's you who brings everything to life at the end of the day. So you have to be very disciplined to understand every aspect of filmmaking, or if it's stage work that you want to do, and
Mhm.
then push yourself, train yourself, never stop learning, never stop asking, never stop wondering. And
Mhm.
the third one, I think people forget and neglect, I see in LA, the people that are new to town and new to the industry, is just living a full life. I think it's very important to live your life, not just obsess for over, casting, working, things like that. But you want to make sure you live a life because the more you live, the more even heartbreak you have,
Mhm.
the more love and gains and losses. All of it just makes you a better actor because you can use and it's fuel for an actor,
Mhm.
life. So those
True.
three are my magic potion.
Those are your magic potions. And what would you say that the three necessary qualities that every director should have?
Wow. You know, obviously directors are so crucial. And I think also empathy,
Hmm.
because they need to obviously bring the story to life. Let's just say it's not their own story. And they need to understand the actor's process. I think that's one element. And a lot of directors take acting courses sometimes to understand that, so they're able to communicate with an actor their visions rather than instruct, but rather collaborate on that front, and then obviously um, just immense imagination, like I always go back to childlike levels of freedom. And I think actors, we need to bring ourselves, and directors, back to those kid versions of us who saw the world through those eyes. And
Hmm.
then the third one is, which I've been lucky with, but I've seen some who haven't. Just level of respect for
Yeah.
everyone, for your crew, for your actors, obviously, and everybody involved. Because as you said earlier, everybody is so important, even the extras.
Yes.
Everybody is important, and everybody is an equal in my eyes. To me, I don't see hierarchy in the world or on set. So we're all
Mhm.
there to do things. And of course, a lead actor and a director, the pressure on them is much larger, but we shall not forget that it's a collaborative effort and that everybody needs to be treated equally. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's teamwork. Mhm.
It's teamwork, 100%.
In your opinion, is talent born or created, or both?
Both, I believe. I think there is a level of predisposition towards things, and I think with acting, we aren't able to separate it as clearly as, for example, singing. Someone who's just born with a voice, like, I don't know
Mm.
who, Mariah Carey, like that kind of voice. You can train to improve, but you have it or you don't.
Mhm.
And with acting, it's a little bit more of a gray zone. I think there's predisposition to be able to be that empathetic and that free and that open. Maybe certain charisma for sure is also helpful.
Mhm.
Um, but there's also a lot of it that's nurtured, with how much ability were you even given or trust that you can do it, and that you're allowed to,
Mhm.
particularly with acting.
Okay, here is the previous question I wanted to ask you. As you know, when we study acting, they usually
Yeah.
teach us how to get into character, but normally they don't teach us how to get out of it.
Yes.
So, do you have any technique that you use to get out of character, especially those that are more emotionally complex?
um it's great that you asked that, because it's something I've only figured out fairly recently. That was my weakness, because I do like to get into character, even for some auditions. You get in so deeply, especially with method acting type of approach. You get in
Mm-hmm.
so deeply, and then when you've done it, um, like you said, nobody teaches you how to get out of it, right? And over time, I learned that the best for me is to just, which is easier when you shoot on location, because you can just leave it there and
Mm-hmm.
separate it from your home. But otherwise, it's just to take it easy. And when I come back home, I understand that I'm just not yet myself. So I don't yet do get back into my routine. I don't yet do the things I normally do, see the people I normally see. I just kind of just stay put and wait it out, and take it easy on myself and allow myself that time to unwind. But knowing that makes it easier also for your body to do so, because again, it's all about permission and giving yourself, allowing yourself to release it and feel whatever you feel, and knowing that it's just part of it, and then it goes away.
Now, how long does it usually take you?
It depends on how long I was, involved. Like, and if I also have to physically recover. Um, my last film, I played a number one MMA fighter on
Mhm.
Absolute Dominion. It's a Blumhouse Netflix film. So then you also have physical recovery, and plus, and I think emotional recovery takes longer, but a couple weeks, maybe up to a month, depending on how long you were in that, to really fully. And frankly, honestly, sometimes you don't 100% go back to who you were right before, because that project might have just inspired you and changed you. And that
Mhm.
happened to me when I was filming in the Middle East, because I hadn't been to Morocco in 10 years. Every time off I had here, now I go back to visit Germany to see my immediate family.
Mhm.
So, and I was the one kid that I would always like beg my mom after summer break to stay in Morocco. I was like, please, I want to stay here, because as a kid, it's so fun and the people are just
Yeah.
so loving and affectionate. And then you go back to Germany, which, it's a good country with qualities of itself, but it's not affectionate and warm like that.
Yeah.
So the
Well.
culture shock was real. So I hadn't been back in 10 years, and going to first Lebanon for a couple of months and then Egypt, I was just, it's different cultures, but there's great similarities to
Mhm.
Morocco. And I just loved it so much. And it reawakened something in me that I feel more like myself since I've done it than I had
Mhm.
in so long, living elsewhere all over the world. So it was just, sometimes projects do change you for the better, and I let that happen. I'm okay with change.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Tell us which of your projects have given you the most visibility in the film industry as an actor.
There was a series of projects with a director named Kaza Farahani. He was, or is, a very known art director in Hollywood. He's worked on films like Benjamin Button or Spider-Man, Avatar, and whatnot.
Mhm.
And then he also directed a series of films over a course of a few years. And I was lucky to be in three of his films, and they all went into very renowned festivals, from Toronto TIFF to the Lincoln Center, New York, Tribeca Festival, New York, and then also theatrical release on AMC.
Mhm.
So that was definitely something that made it more mainstream. And then Counterpart, a series I did with J.K. Simmons, who won the
Mhm.
Oscar for Whiplash. That was for the Stars Network, and also had an international release. So that was the next thing. And then my lead role in a film called My Stretch of Texas Ground that we shot in Austin, Texas. Actually, I
Austin,
talked to you earlier about your experiences.
about being.
And yes, and that one, I like, that was my favorite at the time role to play, but I
Mhm.
had some production issues, and I tried to influence as much as I could, and I did my thing, and I
Mhm.
ended up winning. I don't know what it was, like 9 or so festival best lead actor awards. So that gave me the confidence to just push harder. And
Mhm.
then I did a film with Channing Tatum,
Mhm.
an MGM production, recently a global theatrical release. And then now I just wrapped Absolute Dominion, directed by the amazing Lexi Alexander, who is a Palestinian woman who grew up in Germany, like myself, Moroccan German. So I was very excited, and it's a film for Netflix by Blumhouse Productions. So that's, two great studios, a very established director, and a wonderful story also that is coming out at top of 2023, and it has a global Netflix international release. So everybody watch so we can get the trilogy.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, I mean, you're having, what, 2 good years.
Yeah, it's been
That's not bad. That's not bad. And you just keep it rolling. Keep it rolling. What
exactly.
are your favorite genres in film as a spectator?
Um, you know, I don't know if it's a surprise to anybody, but I actually mostly watch horror movies.
Well, yeah,
you
me
know,
too. So you're not the
yeah,
only. Yeah, I like
yeah,
horror too, so.
yeah. Every time someone wants to go to the theater, I was like, oh, let's. I always look for the horror movie, because I know I'll at least be entertained, and thrilled, and
Yeah.
that startleness. But I also love, like, my favorite movies are Black Swan and Pan's Labyrinth, and they
Mhm.
have some similarities in the sense of reality meets fantasy, and and dark but deep but beautiful. So that's my favorites.
Yeah. And as an actor to work?
Um, Drama and yeah, horror is not as fun as an actor, surprisingly, but drama and something that has a message, that is bigger than the story and bigger than me, and that
Hmm.
stands for that, has a mark, because that greatness of that type of story and role, you feel it, and it just
Hmm.
fuels your performance, and then things come out of you that you didn't even know you could do, because you just feel the magnitude of that.
Yeah.
So yeah, like dramas with a message.
Yeah. Well, shouldn't all films have a message?
Yeah, but I also love like a lighthearted, simple. Home Alone is like my favorite little Christmas comedy. I don't know what the message is. Don't leave your kids alone at home, maybe.
Yeah. And don't leave them with your credit card either. Uh,
Yes, exactly.
yeah. Um, an actor. Okay, now let's get into deep matter.
All
Uh,
right.
an actor isn't but the person who gives life to a character that tells a story, and except in specific cases that the character requires so, it knows not about ethnic groups, religions, genders, or sexual denominations. Now, here are a couple of questions for you. Would you say that we all have the same opportunities in this industry?
Um, no. One might argue, yeah, we all have the same opportunity, but we don't all have the same chance because of one, racism, and two, sexism, or equally one or two.
Mhm.
And also Hollywood, of course, much gratitude to be part of the industry and be able to tell my stories and this, and that. However, systemic racism that occurs in the world, from Europe to America, etc., is heavily reflected in the industry. The way stories are told. They're about to release I believe it's in pre-production, Cleopatra. Not
Mhm.
cast by an Egyptian, or not cast with an Egyptian actor. So a lot of those things keep happening. There's a lot of whitewashing historic stories. There's a lot of white dominant storytelling.
Mhm.
We've had how many Queen Elizabeth um, versions,
Yeah.
um, you know, and we don't have a lot of The Woman King, which is a phenomenal epic film. And we need so much more of that. That will automatically give representation. Then the studios don't have to worry about how they call it demographics. If you just tell all stories and cast them
Mhm.
by people that represent those eras and those worlds.
Right.
Africa had kingdoms way before Europe, respectfully, I'm saying these things. The Middle East was the birthplace of civilization, not
Mhm.
Europe. So, and definitely not America. So we should celebrate that as one humanity, rather than,
Mhm.
just trying to propagate these stories the way we do. And that
Mhm.
leads to obviously skewed um, job openings, because mostly it's going to be Caucasian led, and those things are changing. And there's a lot of progressive movements and a lot of wonderful things happening today. We have Rami Youssef, Mo Amer, who I'm a huge fan of, and I didn't have them growing up, watching film and TV. So I had to find myself in other things. But now you see people that look like you on TV and film. And
Mhm.
we just need to have more of that, and we need to have more women direct. Like a woman should direct Marilyn Monroe film, not a man, so they can finally get it right.
Mhm.
Things like that, we need to continue to push, because it's progressing, but it's
Mhm.
still not equal, for sure.
I think you have been quite lucky as an actor, um, um, because you have had roles and characters. You have given life to characters that they have not stereotyped you because you are
Right,
originally from Morocco.
right,
Unfortunately, that doesn't happen to all of our actor friends.
Right.
who do come from either from Latin America, who
Hmm.
are Afro Americans, or Asians, or
Right.
Arabs,
Right.
or Africans. Unfortunately, here, for instance, in Spain, they do still stereotype a lot the characters.
Yes.
Black will portray a black. Well, yeah, I mean, if the character is black, of course he has to be black. I mean, we're not going to, whitewash them or whatever. But why does that actor have to portray the role of an immigrant who comes on a boat
Right.
in the Mediterranean? Why can't he be a doctor or a minister or an ambassador or a
Yeah.
serial killer, or I don't know, or a transgender doctor? I don't,
Right.
whatever.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
So,
Hmm.
um, what do you think should be done or could be done to start change? Okay, everyone says, okay, yes, it's changing, but it's changing too slowly.
Right. And I
What
agree.
needs to be done to make it faster?
I think what is happening is one racism, the other one is the white savior complex, which is just a part of racism at the end of the day, to make themselves feel better, look better. So they will create those stories like the ones you just mentioned. But we need to start looking at people as equals first of all, and that is something we can't enforce. So people like us, like you and me, and African Americans and Africans, and everybody that is wronged in that regard, and they're trying to stereotype, which they've tried with me. I had agents who tell me just go in and do whatever they want, play the terrorist, and once you establish
Mhm.
yourself you can do other things. And I wouldn't, I would go into the room. Sure, I'll do the audition, but I will give you a human portrayal of a character you're trying to stereotype. So I
Mhm.
walk in, and given the context of the story, I would get very emotional. Somebody that's telling someone, I will give up my life because I'm in so much pain. I feel so much hate for you because of what your people did to me.
Mhm.
So I would cry, and of course, that's not what they want to see.
Of course.
So, I will eliminate myself out of getting cast, but I will give a great performance as an actor, but I will not partake in the stereotypical depiction that is negative to my people or
Mhm.
people alike. So we need to start um, making those changes, whether we audition or on set, as actors, to bring humanity to these characters. One, and two, we need a lot more storytellers, producers, creators, so we can write these stories, cast these actors, tell these beautiful events of history. Like the Woman King recently, I keep quoting
Mhm.
Viola Davis because it's the fight she had as a studio production, because there was no precedent. There wasn't a dark skinned, black led,
Yeah.
female led film like that. Um, and since Black Panther and now this, and there's going to be so much more, and I would like to be part of the movement for the MENA people, North African, Middle East. We're a group with so many different cultures and so many different types of people.
Mhm.
We just look similar, but we're all very different.
Oh,
And
totally.
you
Totally.
know you know and I
Yeah.
love
Yeah.
to represent and bring that together. And I'm writing two projects right now myself, and I'm very clear on the responsibility I hold in being able to make my dent, and
Mhm.
seeing other wonderful artists. I'll mention their names again: Moammer, Rami, Yusuf. It's just so inspiring and strengthening to see that we're not in this fight alone. There's so many wonderful artists
True.
globally,
Mhm.
and the
Well,
pendulum,
yeah.
is soon to swing. Yeah.
That's why I founded Menatel in Spain, because um, I found the need that everyone should be in the same web case, so that whenever someone was looking for a MENA artist,
Hmm.
they would just have to look in one place.
Yeah.
And each MENA artist, each MENA talent has their own agent. Some people, they contact me, they say they want me to represent them. I say, I'm not an
Right.
agent. This is just a web case show. It's a website where you are there with your own agent contact, and people, directors, casting directors, producers, screenwriters, if they need something, someone, and
Yeah.
there was none created here in Spain. And all these are talents, MENA talents that live in Spain, and it was quite important. I once had a chat with an agent saying that she wanted to represent me but she only wanted to represent me as MENA
Hmm.
because
Right.
I was, I think, if I'm not wrong, I'm the only 50 plus Darija speaker actress, professional actress in Spain.
Hmm.
And I told her, yeah, but I have my other languages too. And she said,
Right.
well, yeah, but I'm not interested in your other languages. I said, well, I'm sorry, I can't have an agent for every language that I speak. I have
Right.
one agent who represents me in all the languages that I speak. So well,
Exactly.
is that. But I think it's a question also of mentality. And would you say that in our industry, we're not talking only about filmmakers, right, or production companies, or even screenwriters. We're talking about
Hmm.
even our co friend actors. Would you say that we still lack of unity?
Yes, I do. Well, I think that we all have been conditioned, with checking the box, right? What are you? White. It's one box that covers all of Europe and America essentially, and then everybody else is other. So it's African American, Asian American, Arab American, Latin American, all of that, and that's all, in my opinion, BS and an invention that makes no sense. We're all one race. We're all one and the same, and there shouldn't be these boxes. And if we removed that, we would actually come together and see each other as the same and understand that the rest is just pigmentation. It's just melanin adjusted to the sun exposure over generation, or
True.
lack thereof. So,
Mhm.
if we came together, and then religion is another that divides us, even though it also stems from the same exact thing. So
Mhm.
I think powers that be and the power players in our politics that tend to prefer the separation so they can control certain things, and they play with it. But us as artists and as humans, we have the
Mhm.
opportunity to come together and remove that and support each other. For
Mhm.
example, if we want to fight racism, if we all came together, brown, black, and everything in between, there would be no minority. That would be the majority of the world. So that's how I see it as artists. And if we just spread love and go back to a time when we celebrated differences, when we looked at different clothing, for example, the entire hijab drama in Europe, I'm
Yeah.
witnessing. Let a woman wear whatever she wants to wear, and be free to decide. And that goes both ways. You can't tell a woman to wear something just as
Mhm.
much as you can't tell her what not to wear.
True.
And there was a time I remember, even when I was a child, where we watched movies and we would celebrate the Bedouins and the beautiful cloths and cover this and that, and it was just mysterious and exotic, and those things. And now we all want to shun what is different from us. Why do we all have to look the same, dress the same,
True.
um, to be perceived as good? No, we should celebrate our differences.
True. Well, what we were talking about, stereotyping or the differences between some actors and others, we still have this happens also between men and women in the
Hmm.
industry,
Yeah.
be it as cast or as crew. Do you think we still live in a male world in film, TV?
Yeah, I do. And it's unfortunate because women naturally have a larger sense of empathy. I think women directors are incredible, including the most recent film I did with Lexi Alexander. There's just certain natural abilities that women have that we should also celebrate more, and they should be in leaders' positions, whether it's in film or politics. Perhaps we would have less wars, and I think in the film industry, the same thing. And those who came to power through whatever means that were the old ways
Mhm.
are trying to hold on so hard, and they're trying to just um, the brotherhood, so pass it to the next one that looks like them, or they only see people that look like them as equals, versus the woman that's taking over the company or the film, or
Mhm.
the lead of a film. I said earlier with the latest Marilyn Monroe film, I don't understand why in 2022, and no disrespect to anybody's talents, everybody was extremely talented, especially the lead actress, wonderful. But
Oh,
that
yeah.
should have never, yeah, she's a wonderful actress, but that should have never been directed even by a man. Like,
Mhm.
we need a woman to understand the woman's perspective of becoming Marilyn, and we should celebrate the successes that she was able to have in the male dominant world, rather than shame perhaps the things we believe she had to do or were done to her. So a woman would just be able to find that balance between celebrating Marilyn whilst telling the harsh realities of what it was to be her, versus just making it feel from a male perspective as like an observant of it all. That
Yeah,
makes
but
sense.
I think that I don't agree totally with you,
Yeah.
because it's okay. I and I'm a woman.
Yeah.
For me, a filmmaker is a filmmaker.
Okay.
It's just genderless. For me, a filmmaker is a filmmaker and has to
Yeah.
be doing and shooting and directing and creating uh, out of a creative vision.
Yes.
Whether you're a man, your gender has nothing to do. This is just like, for instance, when I ask filmmakers in Spain, why are there no or very, very, very few films done about um, male gender violence, speaking about women being violent with men. Why aren't there any films done? And there are so many of men being violent with women.
Hmm.
And most male film directors tell me, if the screenplay or the director is a woman, they will not object to it. But if a man would do this, they would call it, how you say it, machismo.
Right.
And I said, no. I told him, I don't agree with that, because you are telling a story that has a message. And it doesn't matter whether you're a woman who's directing it, a man, or whatever. I mean, you are telling a story that exists. Okay, it is true that it's in a very small percentage where women treat men very, very badly, be it
Uh-huh.
physically or emotionally or mentally. But
Yeah.
I mean, compared to women, but they do exist. These cases exist. They are real. And I do not see why they cannot be told by either by a woman or by a man. Once I was asked, "You are not a feminist." I said,
Hmm.
"No. If being a feminist is not requesting 50-50 in all cases and in
Right.
everything, then I am not a feminist. I am feminine."
Right. Right.
So, for me, I've been hearing a lot of things talking about blonde. For me, Ana de Armas has done a great job. She has done a very great job doing this, portraying Marilyn Monroe. Whatever
Hmm.
Marilyn went through, it wasn't only Marilyn. At that time, a lot of actors, female and male, went through a lot of that shit, and excuse the term, in Hollywood to become who they wanted to become. And it wasn't only Marilyn. A lot of people went through that. And
Absolutely.
well, that's the thing. So you are telling a story. You are telling a story of what happened and how it happened. There are some models that are, very top models that are saying, why
Hmm.
do they have to sort of like throw shit on her image? Because it
Hmm.
was true. Because that was her life. She went through that. It's as if I don't know, any other actor, any other singer who went through hell and shit while their career was on, and they died over an overdose, and then all of a sudden people want to make it nice. No, they had good moments and they had bad moments. We are humans.
Absolutely.
Why do we continue to try to make everything pink when it's not?
No, that I agree with, and I think the darkness of it is important
Yeah.
to showcase. But
Unfortunately, yes, I do agree with you that there should be many more women directors, many more women in the crew, many.
yes, because even, and I agree with that statement that storytelling should be non-gender. But unfortunately, we're not in a world yet where we raise women and men the same way. Women are told to, that their goal should be to marry and the wedding and to
Mhm.
be a nurse. Well, men are, like even costumes, nurse costume versus doctor costume for men and female. There's a lot of sexism still
Still,
permeated in our education system. And I
yeah.
think not with all, a lot of people are really, with movements such as feminist movements and things that are happening that are making changes amongst males as well, but not all. A lot of men are still, stuck in certain patterns, just
Mhm.
like females are stuck in certain patterns. We're
Right.
all stuck in certain patterns. But I do believe that it's important to showcase the different perspectives. And we've seen many
Mm.
Maryland depictions by male directors. It will be really, really refreshing and interesting, especially now when we're trying to um, get to a place of equality, get to a place of the non-gender
Yeah.
order. Before we do that, we still have to showcase a lot more of the other perspectives that we've
Mhm.
been stymieing, So I think it
Yeah.
would be really interesting to show. And there's a fine
Cool.
balance, even Black Swan, the ballerina film,
Yeah.
right? You see her losing it, similar to perhaps one would argue with what was going on with Marilyn and her life,
Well, yeah.
and even though that's a fictional story with Black Swan, but it was still celebrating the character
Mhm.
and her talents, most of all, her talents and her skills, and then giving you this environment around her. Um, that is what I mean, versus the
In the case of
the make.
Blonde, in the case of Blonde, we don't have to forget that it was not directed by a woman, but it was written by a woman.
Right, right, right.
Yes, the
Yes,
book was written by a
yes,
woman. So whoever's
yes.
saying all this, they should go back to the book.
Uh, yes,
They should
exactly. Stick to
go
the
back to the
script.
book. It was written by a woman. So it's
Right,
not,
right.
maybe, yes, it is true that the director put his own male vision in certain things, but, or
Yeah.
certain ways, but that's how it really happened. I mean, would you question yourself that first scene that she's in the office? Would you question that that didn't really happen? It happens today. Why wouldn't it happen 50 years ago?
Oh no, absolutely. The
So,
the exploitation in that for sure. But there's so many other things that are not being talked about, We're just
yeah, yeah,
focusing on those aspects. And that's particularly with Marilyn because I love, most movies and stories. I'm
yeah.
fascinated with how to me, I just want to see that celebrating of what she accomplished, even though the ugliness of what she
Oh,
was put
definitely. Yeah, she
through,
went through hell, but she did accomplish what many other didn't.
You know what I
That is
mean?
everyone should
She's
know. Yeah.
Yeah, and she's
So,
still an
so,
icon today,
yeah,
not somebody to,
that's today. Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Do you think that auditions are necessary for professional actors, or just with their video reels and IMDb is enough? Would you consider a simple cold reading via Zoom with the casting director and the director be enough? And do you usually do auditions for all your projects?
Um, I used to think and I used to hope that auditions, would not be necessary because it's a lot of effort, a lot of work, and you audition so much. Um, and but now, as I'm more in the lead actor world and I'm also creating stories and productions, I do really understand the importance of auditions because it's not really necessarily anymore at a certain point to see who can act and who doesn't. Chances are if you are represented and you have a resume, you can act, but it's really about um, proving that you're able to deliver on short notice because the pressure on set, if you can't deliver certain things in an audition environment,
Mhm.
there's a likelihood that you'll freeze up on set, that you can't do it on set, and the filmmaker can't take the risk of you telling them that yes, You know, once I'm in character, once I'm on set, it'll happen, which can be true. But you know, everyone needs a guarantee, and also for the actor to know that you can go there, and to also have the opportunity to explore the material ahead of time. If things do move fast, as they do on TV, particularly, sometimes in 2 days later, you're right there shooting a very emotional scene. So you have the audition time to prep that too. So I do think auditions are important, and but I do also think just meeting and just and talking to directors can be
Yeah.
very, very helpful. And also when you're at a certain level and you have reel and resume where you've already showcased all kinds of ranges,
Hmm.
you know, then yeah, one could bypass an audition if it fits
Yeah.
in those ranges. You know, Halle Berry auditioned for Monsters Ball,
Yeah.
and that's Halle Berry. You know, just because the role was stepping out of her repertoire, and so she
Hmm.
had to kind of prove to herself and the director that yeah, she can do it, and she nailed it. Yeah.
Do you think that platforms like Netflix, HBO, Amazon Prime, etc., are the only future for our industry? Do you think they'll take over the cinemas?
Um, I love the platforms. I think the freedoms that they've given filmmakers, storytellers, you know, talking about female representation, talking about diversity,
Hmm.
you know, it's just unprecedented. But I do hope that they won't take over, because I love the experience of going to a cinema, you know, seeing something on the big screen. I hope that there will be a better, and I see it happening with HBO sometimes as well as Netflix, that there's a relationship between theatrical release and streamers, so the support, so to speak, so they can both keep each other alive, you know,
Yeah.
forever, rather than a competition.
Hmm. You previously you did talk a little bit about your both of your latest jobs.
Mm.
One was The Final Judgment, and the other one, Absolute Dominion.
Yes.
Could you just say what did you like most and what did you like less of the shooting?
um, all right. So Final Judgment, I liked most just to be in, you know, Lebanon and Egypt, just to be amongst the people, be amongst the talent. It was wonderful, and that cultural immersion just allowed me to go places I didn't even plan to. It was like a creative breakthrough after breakthrough. So that was my favorite, just being there. Least favorite, well, Lebanon was going through a or is going through an economic crisis due to Western sanctions, unfortunately. And you know, we were there in the middle of it all, and we had no electricity for 12 hours a day. We were on the ninth floor, so after a while, as much as I appreciated the exercise, you know, walking up and down the 9 stories did get to me in the end, multiple times a day. But yeah, nothing bad. It's just love for that project. And Absolute Dominion, my favorite was to work with Lexi and Blumhouse, and whom I've been a fan of for a long time, and to portray um, the basically person to represent the MENA world, because in this film the UN is called the Beirut Council, and it's set in Lebanon. It's representative of the world. The MENA are the leaders, and my favorite was just to represent that, and to be this top fighter who's celebrated, and you know, to come from that world. And I felt that regalness. It was really a great feeling. And then least favorite was just I mean, it was a physically taxing role, and we, you know, we trained very hard for it, and you know, some injuries and things like that. But it all helps. Even the bad stuff helps the performance. You know,
Mhm.
so I don't even see sometimes when there's in filmmaking tough circumstances. I embrace it and I love it, and it fuels my character. Like I shooting in a studio where you don't have any of that, and you're in your trailer waiting, and then you show up. Sometimes I'm lacking that muscle memory of, you know,
Mhm.
actual physical pain, maybe.
Tell us about your first film as a screenwriter, L'Armoyant, sponsored by fashion house Yves Saint Laurent, where you also acted, sung, and danced.
So that one, was an opportunity for me. It happened serendipitously. It was an opportunity for me to showcase that I sing, because I had worked as a dancer. I started as a dancer. I was a dance teacher in New York, and so I had showcased that, but I never shared singing with the world. It was something I would just do privately, and then um, the director, Eugene Lee, who I met through a project for BuzzFeed, and he and I became friends. And I had this idea of putting together a showcasing production. And then I had
Mhm.
another friend who was representing Stefano, the designer for YSL at the time, for Yves Saint Laurent. And it just through, just dinner talk, it all came together as, oh yeah, I can put together this. Oh yeah, he can sponsor it. Oh yeah, this and that. And it just happened on its own. I recorded with other friends a song, a cover of Damien Rice's Cheers, Darlin', choreographed it with my friend Thea Brooks as the lead actress. And the rest is history. We shot it here at in LA, and then put it up online, and it took a life of its own.
Where can we see it?
It's on YouTube still. Yeah.
Okay, well, you'll
Yeah.
give me the link and then I'll just add it so everyone else can
Okay.
enjoy this.
Yes.
How was the experience? Do you plan on writing more stories?
Yeah, absolutely. So 8 years ago, I studied properly writing. Of course, as an actor, you learn
Mhm.
and you study so many scripts, but I respect every aspect of filmmaking. I would
Mm.
never be able to just direct without studying certain elements that and skills, and understanding cinematography even better on a technical aspect. And with writing, same thing. So I did a program called LA Writers Lab. I recommend to anybody in LA. And I had written a film called Cul-de-sac, but it's a very controversial piece. One day I still
Mhm.
plan on making it, but until then, I now where I'm in my career, I've used the time that COVID enforced upon us, and me and my writing partner have put together a package of two, because a lot of networks want to see a package when you pitch and when you want to sell and create
Mm.
new productions. So we wrote a TV show. It's called Wicked Game, and it's basically the life of people like us in Hollywood. Right? We're talking about Maryland back in the day. So this is us now with what we're going through, the good and the ugly, because we don't see a lot of that about Hollywood. We see the glamorized side, which is super fun and beautiful and shiny. But I think people today are hungry for the gritty, the truth behind the
The
scenes.
truth, yeah, the
You
behind the
know,
scenes.
exactly. So we put together a very diverse cast of an ensemble cast of five, whose stories we follow and whose stories become intertwined.
Mhm.
And it's just a really beautiful story that could go on for a long time. One of those series
Yeah.
that could go on for 7 to 10 seasons. And then we're writing a feature film. We're almost done with both. So at the beginning of next year, when both my films are coming out, that's when I'll package both of these productions. And the
Mhm.
film is about without giving away the twist of the story, but it's about a Iraqi American attorney representing a African American defendant who's been involved in a no knock warrant gone wrong police case,
Mhm. Okay.
and now he's behind bars. And he was also a army veteran, and I say no more. So there's a
Right. Hey, that sounds very, very interesting.
thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. We will be looking very forward to it, and I'm sure that we'll have the time to have another interview once
Hey,
all that,
anytime.
and we can talk about it.
Yes, please.
What advice would you give to those who wish to start this beautiful but uncertain industry?
It's love yourself, really. And I learned that over a while, that nobody will discover you in that sense that we think happens, or unless you're a child, or rescue you or do anything for you. So and that goes both ways, good and bad. So nobody can take it away from you or
Mhm.
own it. So you need to love yourself and own yourself and see yourself
Mhm.
and don't expect others to. Just you carry your own destiny and your own goals, your own dreams, and then the universe will open up. It can take 10, 20 years. There, don't set a time limit. And on a business fit standpoint, I always want to advise everyone, make sure that you separate your financial needs. So make sure you're solid there, that you have what you need, that your life is taken care of, and your
Mhm.
artistic endeavors. Because if you put the two together, sometimes the stress of it can, you know, have a lack of freedom for you artistically. So make sure
Mhm.
your money situation is good, and then artistically, just love yourself and open yourself up and shine. Don't
Yeah.
dim your light and don't hold back.
Would you say that that us actors, but not only actors, I just think that also crew members need this, or some do lack of this, is that they just think that their job is done by being the profession they are into, but they don't think that you are a brand and you have to learn how to sell yourself. And most professionals don't know how to.
Yeah, I'm one of them. I'm not very good with, well, it's not my favorite aspect. The selling yourself and the marketing yourself and
Mhm.
the social media and things that you can be doing to advance your career. I also preferred to just focus on the work and then let everything kind of like happen around me. But I agree that you have to also be able to market yourself and see how you're perceived, not just how you want to be seen.
True.
There's a balancing act of the
Yeah.
two, you know.
Mhm. Do you believe in giving back to the industry? That is, not only with your knowledge, but also with your contacts to help others achieve their own success?
Yeah, absolutely. In general, I'm always one to want to help and do
Hmm.
things. I feel more joy in gifting than receiving a gift. If that metaphor makes sense. So yes, I do.
If you could go back and forward in time, what would you say to your past and your future self?
My past self, I would just say it's all gonna be okay. So just relax and reaffirm to trust in my gut instincts.
Hmm.
Because I think a lot of times we start questioning between what we think we should do versus focusing on what we can do, or we want to do rather.
Yeah.
Um, Especially in places like New York and LA, where it's just so many avenues, literally and figuratively. And my future self, I will just say, congratulations, you did that. And now go and relax somewhere.
Go and relax somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay, we are coming to the end. This
All
is going
right.
to be our last question for today and for this interview. And well, I think it's a very important moment for anyone, being in this industry or not. But okay, as like I like to call it, it's not a gala award, but I would love to give you the time that you need to be able to thank anyone you would like to thank. And there's no music going to start ringing or singing, flowers coming from the ceiling. So you just stop talking. This is your moment. Just take your time to thank whoever you wish to thank.
Oh, that's kind. Well, I would like to first of all thank my family, particularly my mom, for uh, raising me and birthing me, and then also just loving her children as they are, as who they are and what they want to do, and just continuing to getting to know them. And then I would love to thank my aunt, who was like a second mom, and I'd like to thank everybody that's been supportive and those who haven't, because sometimes the feeling of wanting to prove yourself to those who in that moment made you feel like you couldn't can
Hmm.
drive you even more than those who are already in your corner. You know, that sometimes to me that's a interesting sensation. And then you know, anybody that is part of my team, you know, from my agents, my managers, everybody that's supportive, my co-writer, my co-cast of all my productions, Lexi Alexander recently, Marwan Mokbel of the upcoming films. And, you know, the list goes on. Kazra, forever grateful for the collaboration. And I'm forgetting probably hundreds of people, but I'm, you know, just grateful for anybody that's out there inspiring and out there shedding light to stories that haven't been told and that are just creatively courageous and, you know, full of love and curiosity, you know, and the knowledge to know that things aren't always as they seem or as they've been taught, you know. So to want to undo that wrong is an exciting venture for me, you know. So yeah, and thank you for this interview.
Oh, thank you for being there. Thank you for being there.
It's my pleasure.
I think there's an important thing that I like to say, that I have a filmmaker friend who says that one thing is the real reality and the other one is the desired reality. So we have to keep them close but very separate at the same time.
Yes.
Well, Younes, thank you. Okay, there's a little controversy here. In the States, he is known as Junes, but his name is Younes. This is how
Yes.
you pronounce his name. His name is Younes. And in
Yes.
Morocco, you can write it Yuens or Younes, and
Right.
it's Younes. Okay.
Yes.
So, Younes, thank you so much for sharing your afternoon. Well, you're not your afternoon, my afternoon, your morning, and
Yes.
experiences with us all here on Coffee Time with
Hey, my
Yassmine.
pleasure.
And thank you all for being here today and always supporting culture, because, as I say, life without culture is quite boring. You
Oh,
can
yes, it is.
follow Younes, yes, always. Always supporting culture. Humanity without culture is a very dull humanity. You can follow Younes' work through his social media links that I will be including in the interview description on my YouTube vlogcast and my IG. And if you wish to know who my next guest will be, well, you're going to have to follow my social media. Take care, be responsible, enjoy life. And
Bye.
as we say here in Spain, we only have 4 days and 3 of them rain. So thank you all. Thank you loads, Younes. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much for having me.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.